Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Sessions of View of the Light, where today we have our hearts and our arms wide open to you as you come in to this very sacred space that we all make together. I'm burning a little bit of sage and I'm trying to light this kefi, but I'm beginning to realize maybe I shouldn't be playing with fire so much. Anyway, here's some kefi. This is like from ancient Egypt and has all kinds of neat stuff. So all kinds of inspiring, clearing, and protective energy here today. And we're going to have so much fun. We have Rhonda Elliott, who is an amazing Reiki master and teacher, and one of my closest friends who I love so dearly. Beth Marie is not with us today, but she has got the most amazing divinely guided messages that just roll out of her mouth. That's just beautiful to be there on those days. And I'm Teresa Warren. I'm here for the fun. I'm inspired by all of you. So we have an amazing guest today, and we're going to be talking about space weather, the spiritual side of weather, and all kinds of things that is going to be truly exciting. Rhonda, will you introduce our guest? You're on mute.
Hello, this is Alexis Rose from Ascension Diaries. I had muted myself so we could get better voice. Alexis, we had you on last year around this time, and you've come into our focus because you do space weather reports, and I'm kind of a space person junkie, and I see your reports and you talk about space weather and the Schumann frequency and ley lines, but what really grabbed my attention this time was you were showing those weird anomalies that are showing up on our radar, and I thought, wow. And then I looked at one of the pictures and I was in the center, like physical center of one of those weird anomalies, and I said, well, here's a sign. I better get Alexis back on the show and maybe she can explain what's going on. And really, one of the things I like you, maybe besides give us a little what's going on with you now and where we can all find you, and you're up to date of what's happening with you, because your platform's really expanded in the last year. So thank you and welcome. Let us know what's going on with you these days.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you opening up your arms and also smudging me a little bit with some extra goodies. I appreciate that. And I am honored to have any, I would say, useful data to the master Reiki, master healers on this earth who have been and are working their butts off and have been working before I came here. And so I'm grateful that I found a niche that I can be useful to the healers. And so yes, the page I have, Ascension Diaries, which I would recommend if you want to keep up with me at all, just go to ascensiondiaries.com right now and put your email in. Quick and easy, done. And that has been the easiest way, but my most intense platform, or my most up-to-date platform, I'm an Instagrammer at heart, for something. It's the only platform that's truly, I would say, grown my audience with the most honesty out of all of them. But people have had experiences with tons of different social medias, and I'm on pretty much all of them. I tested them all to see what they would do, and I like Instagram the best. And so when I do post, which is often there, these moments, I get a lot of messages from people like yourself and people screenshotting their own space weather apps or their own weather apps, like you mentioned, with the radar and so on, and send me these anomalies and ask me what I think about them or what's going on, because I've been actively basically combing through anomalies in space weather and in radar since 2017 publicly. And so particularly that event that you mentioned, Rhonda, was very, I would say it flooded my account with new people. Something about that concept triggered the AI or triggered whatever handlers or something on my account and was like, this is the topic and this is going to go to new faces. And I got people who had never seen anything of my work, had no idea what I was talking about, commenting ferviously under my post about these radar anomalies on a weather app, asking what it was, what's going on, and then sending me their own weather radar screenshots being like, it's happening by me too. What is this? And so I would say in December and early January, this was really, really popular, and we were getting a lot of anomalies, like you mentioned, just on this weather radar app, where you can see radial lines, or just straight lines, like a storm forming in a very straight line and sweeping across the United States, or actual a starburst like radial lines coming out of a specific city. And a lot of that was happening around the Great Lakes. It was all happening around those cities like Chicago and Toronto, and that specific seat of power seems to be very, very important. But not just them, but going directly south, that whatever parallel that is, it seems like that particular runway keeps making a very long line and a storm front, basically, and pushing it to the East Coast, from the Midwest to the East Coast. It just seems to be sitting there over and over. And so I started looking into ley lines, because for me, I understand that the invisible electromagnetic grid around our Earth is super important. And I know anyone who's watched the History Channel the last decade, they've been talking about these structures built on ley lines, all of these pyramids and all of these pillars and these structures, these ancient buildings, these ancient sites, even just where there's just like a little bit of a top of a rock sticking out of the ground. Like, all of those areas seem to line up into a logical grid of these ley lines. And I took it another step farther, as I tend to do, which is, as a intuitive medium or a practicing channeling medium healer myself, being able to get messages from people who aren't alive while I'm in a session with you, usually your family, and I'm sitting and asking, not them specifically, but just the universe, like, okay, what's going on? And I got a lot of validation in pretty much the same day, from articles released from other beings, other people who like to discuss these, I would say, exopolitics. And these exopolitics people, and people who claim they can contact motherships and all this other galactic politics and everything, were coming out to say that there was something going on in Antarctica. And I had been getting for about a week that there is something going on in Antarctica, and there's like an old machine, almost like a very old control mechanism that is down there that does something to the ley lines. And so this is just purely me. I'm not quoting anyone, but I was receiving visions of this machinery, and then getting exopolitics articles. And even in the cryptocurrency world, the buzz was that there was financial leaders and so on going down to Antarctica that week. And all the visions I was getting was basically that these ley lines are how human energy has been managed, and for a long time. And putting these temples and putting these buildings has helped to kind of magnetically control where the line kind of sways, and how strongly it's feeding its power, I would say. And so some of these structures have been put up to invert and redirect and push this energy away from natural areas that it usually would gather. And then there's also areas where it is naturally gathering this electromagnetic energy, these ley lines, it's gathering naturally. And a lot of people move to those places. They just live there. They just live on those lines. The population density on those lines is pretty thick. And yeah, we're drawn to it because, as beasts of migration, I think we also have electromagnetic fields, and we are also directed towards the movement of the seasons, which is how these fields change naturally. But I was seeing visions that there is technology, basically old looking tech, like it looked like Santa's workshop to me. It looked like old golden ornate knobs and pulleys and buttons, and it almost looked like a really old and golden ornate cash register with all the buttons, and like it looked like that to me. But it was like a wall, and there was like numbers and like a plan, like you could see the whole planet and the lines, and it was like you could just pull this lever and move this line, or activate this line or this line. And I feel what I was being shown was that whatever management was happening on the ley lines, because clearly I was way behind on knowing that, what I was being shown was that the management was changing. The management of these ley lines of our planetary electromagnetic field was being handed over, was the keys were being passed. And it was obviously intense because, like, to think or see such a thing, you're like, wow, that's a pretty big claim. And I'm not a very big blogger or anything. So I just said it and moved on and was like, maybe someone else will agree. But I, watching over the weeks, new radial lines showing up in new spots where it looks like these ley lines are being reactivated. Certain structures are being torn down. It's amazing. Another part of it was these ancient teachers that we like and to bring up about love and consciousness. These teachers walked the land famously. They traveled place to place and so on. But what they were doing, and what a lot of people these days also feel like they're doing, is they were clearing and walking along these ley line areas to install, and repair, I'm assuming, the magic that had been going on to these electromagnetic spots on Earth for a long time. So it was fascinating to kind of get all that information and then work with that here in 2022. But it's exciting as well, because I think that there's a sign that us being allowed to see it means that we get to actually now participate in it more than ever before. To even know that there is something to participate in, I think, is that big gap, and that's sort of the leap I think we are taking today with this interview. So thank you for letting me just speak that whole thing out.
That is awesome. And what you said just gave me goosebumps about people being able to walk the land, because it reminds me of what came up in your hypnosis last week when Doug Buckingham gave us a little past life hypnosis kind of thing. And then it came up in Teresa's about being a dragon and clearing ley lines. And Doug says, yeah, I get doing that sometimes too. So it was interesting that you both, and how it ties in, right, Teresa? Like, the
dragons, yeah.
Can you kind of
there's so many exciting things about all this that I've read past lives of people who do, like you're saying, go from place to place. And I'm like, do you realize that when you go, you're clearing a certain radius all around you as you go to the different places? So it's not by accident, really, even though you saved up for that vacation. There's more to it. There's stuff going on. So isn't this fascinating and exciting what's going on? I mean, this is how things switch, and we all get to be a part of it.
And it reminds me too, when I was looking at your map of the ley line, or went on Google to look up maps of ley lines,
right?
They show like the flyways for birds. Sorry, it's always about birds. The Mississippi Flyway kind of follows ley lines.
Yes.
The big flyways seem to, the Pacific Flyway and whatever flyways seem to follow that. Those ley lines, and I'm wondering, the animals are, like you said, migrating along those lines, because it's easy to follow that magnetic trail, I guess.
I think we just kind of fall into it and walk along it like it's so funny. And to know that invisible power is also very empowering, but also frustrating, because you're like, okay, there's a way more to this. And I started studying space weather because I realized environmentally electromagnetic frequencies outside our head can entrain your own brain to be in a certain state. It can train your whole nervous system. So technology with antennas, or any sort of transceiving, giving, taking antenna, can influence us. And so that we live in a world of those antennas now, and we've mutated, I'm assuming, to be strong enough to withstand. And we've been tiptoeing this line of full-blown mind control and the free will. Like, it's fascinating. And so it was frustrating to feel this way, because I knew in that moment that there had been so much effort put in to control the ley lines of Earth. Pretty much that's like the only thing it seemed like that really mattered, which does make sense physics wise, but to not get taught that, or to not even have that idea until later in my life is frustrating. Because
it's not like they taught you about ley lines in geography, or even brought up the subject, but maybe it was because they didn't know if it was real or hocus pocus, or if they thought it was like, I don't know, pseudoscience or whatever. But I'd like to see now the papers on ley lines and bird migration. I'd like to see what ornithologists will come up with that. Now I have a new thing to Google
I
tonight.
wonder if there's any birds that have accidentally fallen into these grids that they've made out of making the ley lines, like create a pentagram over certain areas, and like they've worked with the pentagram energy a lot and the star anyways. And so I'm wondering if that by chance messed up one type of bird's migration and they just like migrate in a star shape or something now because in that area. Like, that is a cute thought, but it's freaky because you look up these ley line maps, which you can now, and you can see some of them that are like, oh, this is what it normally looks like. And then there's the people who've done the research and they're like, so all these shootings have happened in this particular ley line and over here, and you know, people are dying and being sacrificed on these particular points. And there's people who've done that research already because likely they've been involved or their family has, and they've got some karma to clear. So like, there's a ton of drama, I feel like, in the ley lines. It's actually overwhelming to think about it. And I wonder how what they told me in this vision was throughout 2022, these ley lines were all going to basically be fixed and all the inversions were going to be reverted back to normal. And I was like, how just this year? Why just this year? Hasn't this been happening for years? And it's like, yes, of course, like we've had the momentum. This has been a long time coming, and it's almost, I think it was a celebration. Like it was like a moment to celebrate. And I think 2022 is that year where all the crap that was installed has to be uninstalled and removed. And
Factory reset.
Yeah. Factory reset, which may be why so many people are activating to the more natural, indigenous feelings of working with ley lines and these spots, because they are present again. The logic is present there again, and we are naturally being called to engage with migrating along these lines and stuff. So it's pretty beautiful. I really do hope that what I saw was true, and I'm looking for evidence all year of these potential massive lines over seats of power and places of power being usurped and freed of their control, this control mechanism or whatever they're doing to like block energy flow and push it in weird places and stop it from going to certain humans and who living further down the ley line, like putting these blocks and everything. I think wealth and health is going to obviously just thrive on our earth if this is indeed true. Like, I believe we get a ton of our information in our pretty much, I think we could be considered little robots that are controlled by these ley lines in a way too. Like we were born to work with them.
Yeah, was that, or we decided we were born to work with them, I guess would be the way. Yeah, this is my responsibility.
Right.
There was a past life where Rhonda, Betts, and I, and sometimes it's like 11,600 years ago or something, and we would go to the different places that there's two parts. One part, we were setting up spiritual places so that things could be learned and known and collected, and then that was dispersed. But then I think like before the comet hit or after, it was time to dismantle these. You know what I mean? Because the earth was going from a higher vibration to a lower vibration. And we had to dismantle them, which some embraced and some were like, oh, you guys are bad, or you know what I mean? But in the end, now, this year, this time that we're in, now this time, everything's coming back online for us the way it's supposed to be. Like you said, the reset.
It seems like it. And people are more empowered than ever to kind of embody who they feel like they really are and what they are really here to do and help teach others to do that. And I've been learning and doing grid work, I would say consciously since around 2014, but I haven't installed it too much into my work because I didn't even realize how interconnected they were. And I think I was also scared. I think there was a part of me that knew it wasn't safe. And the grid work we were doing at the time was in a way under duress, like knowing that there is issues and you're just going to sneak your way into the sacred site and like do some good Reiki in the area and clear out some weird portals that are open and all this stuff. Like, ooh, The dogs are excited.
They're excited about clearing the portal.
They want to just,
They're
yeah,
helpers.
exactly.
Yeah. We know that they know a lot more of energy. They're much more attuned to energy than we think.
They
And
are.
and so this brings me to the other part of what you do, which is, and maybe have you figured this out yet? Why,
Ugh.
when the Schumann resonance has changed in the Earth in the last 20 years, how it's up leveled a bit? Is it our awareness is up leveled, or is it actually up leveled? Or this is one of the things I always wonder. Like, we haven't been measuring it for that long. Um, if and the blackouts, are they
Haven't.
just like blackouts, or are they constructive blackouts? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do believe that. I for sure believe that there is a heavy hand of censorship coming down on those who are interested in watching now these public space weather tools, especially since I've really been pushing their relevance. I've been was just obsessed with it for some reason. Like, tell as many people as possible about solar weather and the Schumann resonances as you can, which all these years now learning the Schumann resonances were named after a man who could have been somebody who was, what's the word? I would say a Nazi sympathizer potentially, or he was in a way coerced by the actions of World War II as a scientist from Russia and from that area being pulled into the United States and so on. So even on their Wikipedia page, they're saying he was a part of Project Paperclip on the Wikipedia page. And I watched another woman around my age who, she's a feisty one. She came up a few years ago and started doing similar work that I was doing, but she was really good at the investigative research, and I think she also got a push or a nudge. We're likely in the same soul group or the same team, you know. She got a little bit of a push, like, hey, check out Buddy's our Wikipedia page today. And that information had been added after I had also done research about the guy. So I was grateful that she had been just inspired to do this whole breakdown of what the Schumann resonance is and what it means. So it is the Earth resonance. Every planet with an atmosphere has a resonant frequency that if there is life, would have to also live within. And so that's also on the Wikipedia page and the NASA page. It's talking about how Venus has its own, I think it was like Jupiter, Saturn, there's a few.
Yeah, they all have their own tones. Like, I've heard
The sounds.
what the planets actually sound like from space. So.
And it's cool. So like everything has its own little song. It's simply said, like every kind of living creature seems to emit its own little song of uniqueness, and it seems like our planet has its own. But the argument has been, is our song literally changing? Which would mean, in my opinion, that the properties of our planet would have to change. The properties of the surface of our Earth and the properties of our ionosphere, height and like thickness or strength. And so I'm not experienced enough over the decades to know if that's indeed happening, because I've been watching the censorship get way more serious. So it's been hard for me to continue this pursuit because of the censorship has been so bad and very frustrating. Although the blackouts still wake people up because they go, what is this? There's suspicious activity, clear, obvious suspicious activity, but it's neutral in a way. It's neutral in its look. So to just have no data presenting, it allows everyone to just go into their imagination, basically. Yeah. And that can be destructive for people who are genuinely more logical minded and are introducing themselves to this science, which does allow you to bridge to more of a global mindset and a more of a loving mindset. But if you're not there to just jump into timelines and global liberation and all of that, when you see a blackout on a kind of is a random source, a resource on the internet, it doesn't, in my opinion, it's not that, it doesn't convince me personally that what these bloggers and these people, who most of them I've watched come up into my field and make mistakes, and then I've messaged these people and they've not considered what I've said. It's hard to watch them just get, all of the views and get all of the AI to be like, yes, your article, let's just pump that to like 50,000 people about the timeline shift that had to happen, or like the void we fell into as a planet and emerged from without any evidence. And it's just hard for me sometimes because I am a spiritual person. Like, I am very much receiving messages myself. And so to not receive the same messages as well is hard.
And not have the
going.
evidence to back it up.
No evidence, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have evidence that I present, thankfully, and I'm grateful that I've pursued that, because whenever there is a blackout on the Schumann resonances where we can't see the behavior of the earth, or if it's rising or falling in power, because I don't think it's going to change frequency unless the earth does physically change, which it could. But I don't think the sound is going to change much. It's just the volume of the sound that changes on and off. And so when the sun is hitting us, the volume's a little louder. When you're on the night side of the earth, the volume's a little quieter. So you can sleep. And it basically is a process of activating our own brains, is this sound of our earth. It keeps it is a part of mammalian brainwaves, apparently. It's a part of how mammalian brains are grown. Like, you need these conditions for our specific suit, whatever this is, this machine I'm operating. We need these particular qualities. But when they're cranking the machine way too hard for whatever reason, global control or global wars or whatever's going on, I'll watch them crank things up and slow things down. And I watch that for a few years, and then I just watch them cut them out. Just cut out all of the moments where these surges of sound are getting really intense. And I've noticed.
Do you think that's man-made surges that are coming, or do you think it's Gaia responding to man-made?
Both. Like, there is a potential there's both going on, and that's also, it's hiding both. Like, you got to hide both, or else it becomes super obvious like who's acting when. But I do believe that the responses from Earth are also hidden, potentially more even than the fake stuff going on, because I think there is a desire to detach us emotionally from the Schumann resonance charts. I think that is what that was for, was to detach us from feeling validated when we were naturally feeling these impulses and wanting to use the biofeedback, which is how I used it, as a biofeedback device, checking in with myself and then checking in with the equipment. But I couldn't use that anymore. But what it pushed me to was deeper into solar weather research, which is I'm able to predict when they're going to turn off the Schumann resonance now, because likely it is right before a geomagnetic storm is supposed to hit us.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. What's the correlation there?
It seems, or a flare. It's kind of like, which is around the same thing. The flares are much faster, more powerful, more scary, and it could just be causing a reading on those graphs that look terrifying but aren't accurate because of, I don't know, the properties of the energy wave.
Is it like the Schumann resonance throws out a big surge to counteract the flare that's coming in, sort of to put a burst of whatever out, like a sound?
That's a good point. It is a good idea. It would be cool.
It's like, okay, guys.
It's like hitting a bell. It's like the sun is hitting us and we are the bell.
And then so it puts out a big wave. So she protects she protects everything in like a bubble of sound. I'm thinking that's what I'm getting, like a bubble of sound around the earth to protect it from getting like fried, more or less.
Protect it. The bubble is there to protect it, but the sound or the reverberating is, I think, just a part of the physics of that protective place. Right. And I don't think that the Schumann resonance has its own agenda. I think it is just the biorhythm of the earth. And then it is the sun, in my opinion, or the cosmic energy that makes this biorhythm have to respond more, or it puts it under pressure. So it makes it stimulates it, it feeds it. It's like our planet doesn't have its own energy source. It's just a responder in a way. And so it's responding to the constant feed of our sun. And so it's made this environment for us that we can live in by filtering all of that, I think. And this environment is so alive because it does respond, but it can't help itself. It's like it has to. It's just this like bounce back, like the bell. Like you hit a bell, it has to ring as hard as you hit it, basically. There is no like dampening. Uh, really, it's the bell itself is the dampening item. And so once that energy dissipates or the ringing is over, it should just continue ringing at the small sound. It's constantly being hit as small little particles from the sun, the solar wind, all the time is constantly hitting it. So there's constantly this sound that is made, I think. So if the sun went away, our resonance would go away. If I understand correctly, and obviously we don't want that. That's an extreme case.
But we wouldn't have to worry about anything
But
anymore.
if you take yourself away from the earth and you move yourself outside of that resonating bubble, there is problems. And that's another fun part, was seeing how intrinsic it is for us to live, is to have this sound bubble we live in, basically. And to leave that bubble causes extreme mental disorder, basically, because there's just no feedback. There's no place for your brain to kind of know where it is. And
where the boundaries are.
Yeah, so it causes basically all of your energy to leak, and eventually unless you're an extremely like aligned human being, which could be the case, like taking you up out of space and you could be fine for a little while, but days go by and it causes worse and worse and worse conditions, I guess. So they create this noise, this fake noise in space station, and for the humans, yeah, because they absolutely need it to just be normal, be themselves, like water or air.
Not go crazy. Yeah.
I guess. So that was really cool and frustrating to learn. Like I mentioned in my degree, after my degree of psychology, being like, what the hell is people's problem? I still don't know. And finally being like, oh, well, there is celestial bodies just smacking us with unpredictable marathons of chaos. It's kind of, and it's translated into our realm through our atmosphere and everything in a nice way for us, a better way. But yeah, I think there has been a huge cover up and a huge effort as well. A huge cover up and a huge effort to inform the world that there is some type of energetic shift going on in our environment. And I think the cute little woke children who are waking up with innocence and never were part of a government program or all of that are waking up and being like, wow, this is really relatable. I can understand this completely. And then I have people who have been trained and studied in physics and they say the Schumann resonance isn't loud enough to impact us. And I'm like, are you missing the entire point of what it is? It is an environmental factor that you need to live. So if anything happens to that thing, you should probably care. You should probably care as a practitioner. You should care. How much water is your person drinking? How much sleep are they getting? And like, it should be on that list, in my opinion, of what is the space weather today? Are you having this problem because of a geomagnetic storm warning our entire planet is under, which should be common knowledge. We should all get a text when that happens, in my opinion. But I think the issue is the sun is going through its solar cycle. They were nervous about the solar cycle, I think, because it was going to be bigger. And I think that's also why there is a pandemic going on, because there isn't an effort to educate people on health. It's more so damage control from years of mind control, to be like, yeah, all these symptoms you're having, because they don't want you to know about the sun. They don't want you to know about those things, because then you don't need them. You don't need them. You reach out to the news to know why I feel weird. But a lot of people, that's their response, is to turn on the news. Like, I'm feeling a little weird today. A bunch of people must have died, or like something horrible must have happened. Let's turn the news on. But now I'm retraining people. Oh, open up your Space Weather Live app and look at the footage of the sun over the last 24 hours. Oh, do you see that explosion that just happened 6 hours ago? Weird. That headache that you just got 6 hours ago, strange. So I've also been able to help people like, yeah, your symptoms are heavy, but there's no more incoming. So your symptoms should dissipate in 12 hours. And I don't get people being like, you were wrong. Like, they just don't come back because they're fine. And
So
so
is
it's
headaches
empowering.
the only symptoms, or is there other,
No, I
range?
think headaches is the most common symptom because the idea of this energy and why it's also called coronavirus and why the corona of the sun is so important and is this cause of most space weather is because of what's happening on the corona, is we get headaches because there is something wrong with the antenna in your head, and could be due to heavy metals that have been put into your diet all your life that are literally just stuck up there, and the energy is coming in and it's refracting and it's bouncing off of all your nerves. It's actually it also will shield. So like when it refracts, if you have metal or plastic in your system, the plastic will shield you completely from nature, basically, nature's energy, and the metal will refract it away from itself. So if you have too much metal and plastic in your head, in your system from eating out of plastic or metal, and if you're not like pretty much, I would avoid eating off of metal completely and plastic if you can, because we are getting to that level of sensitivity. I think it's getting that serious. You really do have to chelate this stuff out. And that hasn't been my huge deal. Like, I'm the chelation doctor, like, absolutely not. But I have to be like, you must chelate. You must commit. Because if you're going to keep coming back to me with headaches and you're not doing it, then you're lost, because that is the only thing that's going to help you. And I'm truly convinced of that. And if they don't do it, then I'm no longer want to be your doctor, basically, or whatever, because you can suffer in your own way, but you have to take responsibility for your own instrument that's channeling this stuff. So everywhere you do get a symptom is likely where you have a buildup of something that is no longer working for you. If you can just think about yourself in super plain thought, like your nervous system, like you've seen pictures of a human body where they've stripped everything off and it's just like the brain with like a bunch of tendrils fucking hanging off the bottom. Like, that's what we're dealing with, and all those tendrils and all that stuff is being attacked deliberately from some systems to make your ability to channel your kundalini, to channel all of this solar energy, this natural, this life force we all live in. They're blocking that ability intensely with these efforts, tap water, like for years. Like, people were going literally crazy from mercury poisoning and all these types of poisoning during the Holocaust, and they didn't even know, which is why they were also not able to make smart choices, most of them, and why they were able to be more influenced over mind control, because that's when they were really like coming down on everybody and with that stuff all at once. And the technology exploded from that place to a degree where it had to be off planet. It had to be galactic, because it was such a huge leap. And now we're just catching up, and they don't want people to catch up too. It's so funny. Like, I don't get that part at all, because it's so far ahead. Some of it is so far ahead. It's just, if we're not catching up, then they're going to lose their slave force anyways. So they need to keep you a little bit healthy so you can keep doing what they want you to do as their workforce, instead of you opening up your own crown and becoming your own walking, talking boss, where you have your own, you get your own ideas and you have your own feelings in your heart and you actualize them through your legs and you start walking. Like, it's been a big job. I feel like I've taken on a big job because everybody has their own block. Everybody has their own ancestral problems, like ancestral bad habits and stuff. They don't even know they're getting heavy metal in their system, but they've been eating off a fork and knife all of their life, or like off of ceramic food, and like drinking out of ceramic Starbucks mugs, which are filled with toxins, I've heard, like mercury and all that stuff. So it's just
Go back to
constant.
clear glass. It's just silica. Yeah.
Yeah. Glass is great. Yeah, I'm eating everything off glass and wood now, and cast iron pans for now.
You know, I mean,
I'm
yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
But it's hard to watch people suffer. It really sucks. And I want to help people, and I want to help them figure out the best way to clear the stuff out and mitigate their symptoms before more solar flares and the solar cycle gets more intense, because they're predicting this solar cycle is going to keep going up in intensity until around the 2025. And that's sort of like the peak or like the hump of the solar cycle. And so we've got a few years to go preparing people and also watching them, like watching the energy of the solar and all of the natural stuff going on, causing chaos on the bodies that were programmed and mutated and interrupted. And there's the argue that these medicines that are being implemented are going to cause more issues with electromagnetic natural space weather, like adding more metal into your body and adding more issues to your body to slow you down to not be able to metabolize. And then there's the theory that, you know, there is stuff in this medicine that's meant to kind of help bridge that gap because it did get so big, and to help people survive 2025 and solar cycle 25 from, I don't know what they're doing with it, because I didn't want to participate because I felt like I already had my own job going on. I was a few years ahead, I would say, with that project. But it could be some very benevolent and cute effort to literally save the lives of the people we love who weren't ready to talk about space weather or chelate metals out of their body, but they didn't want to be freaking like their brains melting in these natural solar cycle storms. So it's kind of freaky. And I'm grateful. Like, if there really is a benevolent force to help people through these increases of solar weather, then I believe it. I believe it's real. Like, I'm here as an angelic force. I believe there is truly love in this universe, and that there's ways that we all are meant to be surprised for our own soul growth. So I try to know what's going on, but I always give myself a little bit of like, I don't even need to know all the way, because I enjoy the surprises that are no doubt going to keep happening.
For sure. And I'm so, we're wrapping this up, but I'm so, you bring up so much information that we want to keep looking at, and just the awareness, like, who really paid attention to solar flares? We hear about them, and oh, you might lose your shortwave radio tonight, or you
Which
might
is so cute.
or you might get the aurora borealis. So yeah, let's look forward to it so we can go see the aurora borealis.
Of course.
Right. So it just seeing how it interacts with the Schumann resonance and how it interacts with our emotions and our own bodies may give us clues of how we're to deal with more things that are coming in. So what helps us feel better, what makes us feel worse, and what foods we should enjoy and what foods we should avoid. Because I think food has a lot to play in with this, like what we're stuffing in our bodies every day to protect us from all sorts of things. And it's no coincidence that a lot of people are sick on a big platform, because look at our diets. And I think and all the toxins in the atmosphere that we've been pumping out for years, like you say, the heavy metals, the fluorides, the pesticides, everything else, all it accumulates in us. So
yes.
There's an interaction of our overall immune system from that. But Alexis, before we go, please give us a quick rundown on. You can be found on Instagram, and you can be found at your website. Those links are in there. You have a YouTube channel too, and you have a
Facebook too.
Yeah, but on your YouTube channel, you have some courses available as well, I saw.
Yeah, I have a few classes that I've done to help my own audience understand my theories and sort of also read the charts I am reading, and so they can, I would say, more neutrally look at the data themselves and interpret the charts, and then they can participate with the fantasy side, which we all enjoy. Like, we can't help not enjoying it. There's too much Piscean energy, too much Aquarian energy going on. Like, we are in the time of fantasy, innovation, growth, I think, and it's allowing people's minds to open up, which I think was predicted. I think this is like the crown opening the crown experience, I think, is a huge part of all this.
And living with an open crown, it's, because I know because of my divine body, and I will get into that next week. It's open, and my root's open and my crown's open. So I'm sucking in all this information and then just waiting to see what settles out.
Right.
And I love your system. Like, you can find her links in our bio. And then if you go to her Instagram, she has a link tree, and she has a million links of interest for anybody who wants to follow down. That's a day to follow all those up at times too.
Yes, as my list of sources, because that was another issue I was having back in 2017, finding other space weather researchers and being like, where are your sources? Like, I did this almost right out of university, where they demanded you have sources. They would
footnoted them all.
Yeah, footnoted them all. And I was horrible at all that. I mean, I had to really push myself, and I was not a high achieving, I would say, in that environment. I always felt bad about myself. Like, I'm a smart woman. Like, why? But I was like a stickler to these systems so you can make it work, so you can translate scientific efforts and replicate it in any language. And I get why there has to be structure and discipline with these studies. And it's funny because in the structure and discipline, they were able to hide and lie an incredible amount. And so it looks great, but it's filled with lies. And so it's funny how that happened. So I've become a less structured being, more feminine for sure, of a scientist, and allow myself to speak freely on what I think about what I believe I'm observing in the space weather, and collect the public feedback, being like, okay, I felt like shit today for this and this reason. Here's some space weather. Here's what I'm going to do to try and make my life and my body happier, which is usually hydrate and get outside, get more outdoor time, because that always seems to work. You need to get back in tune with the earth frequencies and what the environment's doing. Go out there and let yourself be attuned to it just by chilling out there and letting it happen to you. So it's really easy, but sometimes it's tough. And I'm grateful to have the social media to gather information on what people are doing to help themselves and what people are suffering with, because it does change. There are themes every time, which is also fascinating. And if I had some type of book where I could look up what every frequency did to the body, I'm sure there would be quite a few correlations there with what I observed.
That's a new project for you. Make a book on that.
I would love to. Yeah, and I know they have the
101.
What was that device? The Rife machine, the Rife. Yeah. That I've looked up that stuff too, and it's interesting. But yeah, nausea someday everyone will have. People will have headaches. They will have exhaustion. They will have super exaltation. Their pets instead will all be having a crappy day, but the adults are fine. Pets and children will have a hard day. And then the next day, the adults are really suffering. Things like that.
Bug. But I don't know anybody else who was sick, but we were all feeling the same way. Yeah. So let's figure out. People always say it's the moon. Well, it's not always the moon. You may be more likely to the sun than you are to the moon. I mean, yeah. Moon does.
The moon, yeah, it definitely has its role for sure. It's annoying in a way because it does complicate the research. It complicates my research. There's so many factors.
And a big antidote to the moon is getting out into the sun. I always found like that's a big antidote to being crazy. And moonstruck or whatever you want to call it. It's getting into the sun and getting out into Mother Earth. And people don't go outside enough, even when it's -20. I don't know. So it makes me feel better when I go out, even at that degree of weather.
Yeah, I feel better when you go outside too, Rhonda. You do it for me. I just look out the window or the back door.
Nice.
I'm sure that helps so much, but helps a little bit. So, anyways, anything else?
We got
yes, we have 3 questions for you. If you had a theme song for your life right now, because I know it changes all the time, what is it? Or what's your favorite song? What's your viral TikTok thing that goes in your head?
Yeah. It's every day. A song will play in my head, and I'm like, what's the message of that? And the one for sure that's been playing, I guess I will say, is Halo by Beyonce. I guess she covered it. I don't know if she actually wrote the song, but you know how those artists are. But despite her specifically, other people have covered the lyrics, but the lyrics are pretty good, and it's about finding basically an angel in your life to kind of help with all of your past pain and heartbreak. And it's been going through my head a lot, so it's been nice, just a reminder of like the angels in my life and what they've helped me cure and like the pain that I've overcome because of the angels in my life. So it's that one's been fun. It's been a good vibe.
Yeah, now I can see your wings behind you.
Right?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And
the big mountain wings.
Yeah, the mountains must have a certain energy that are different than the forest, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We all have to be in our special spots, and that's what I say. Wherever you are, you're where you are because you need to anchor in the light there right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have
Agreed.
to go. If we all went to Mount Shasta and lived there, then it would really screw up the earth.
Let's all anchor some light into our spot right now.
Yeah.
Just like
yeah, just being here and appreciating it anchors in the light and raises up the vibration. And like I said, one of the things that I realized that calling in your angels or your higher beings of light into your life at any time raises up your vibration and the whole area's vibration at that time. Because that's all we did, we'd be doing service to the earth. So
yes,
everybody call in their help and call in their angels. So anyways, she just saw you. Second question is, if you have a favorite crystal you're working with right now. Sorry, I'm doing Bex's job and I can't remember all the time. Yeah.
A crystal. I was just touching one. Selenite, I guess I would pick for right now, just as a personal clearing device, especially those who are having pains and so on. Good one to use if you realize there's a little bit extra, I would say, what's the word, baggage on you. Just sweep it off your back like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it clears all your gemstones too in your area, so it recharges them. It's a great.
We love to rock hound, so I'm literally sitting next to like a whole thing of crystals. So if that helps, I'm not just a one crystal lady, but there's a ton here. I don't even know.
You're in my tribe. Yeah, I have some that they're just pretty rocks, and I collected them too. I kind of know what they are, but yeah.
Yeah, people love to give me amethyst. That's a big one from all over the place, which obviously I'm now learning is a part of the grid and the ley lines. But like, you can get amethyst and with some rustiness on it, and
yep.
But I get a lot of amethyst. I get a lot of quartz.
Yeah, quartz is the engine of the earth. I believe it's the engine.
I love it.
Projects our magnetic sphere or whatever. We didn't have that, and it's in our body.
Nancy, I'm after Nancy's heart. I love you, Nancy. Here's some selenite for you.
I use it when I go into the Akashic records because it helps you connect.
Ooh,
I really find selenite and hanging on to that really helps. Okay, and have you had experiences with UFOs or extra dimensional? Of course you have, but like recently or anything that are they above your place?
I was gonna say, I literally was thinking about them this morning and was thinking about all of the years where I became more and more conscious that I was in a way being followed, I would say, by potentially a ship or like a light ship, more like a higher dimensional sort of representation for a while. And then I was thinking just this morning, like, where are they? Like, where did they go? Like, can I just jump on and say hi? And it was like, things have changed since then, which I know that a ton has happened the last, pretty much things got super serious and the planet got locked down in 2020. Like, I saw way less ships, I got way less, and it was very like touch and go. Like, even just channeling the entities, I was noticing that I was just getting wisps of like these groups, which were in a way approaching me, I would say, a lot. And through the content I was watching and what I was consuming. But right now, what I feel, and I'm just going to point at it, but there is a very large ship hanging out, I would say, over Sedona where I live. And this particular craft, whatever, and I feel like it's not quite in our density. It's in a little bit of a different dimension, potentially even like it's in its own little pocket of something. But this particular craft I've felt since around last year, around like spring last year. And it feels like a lot of people I personally know are on this ship as well. And a lot of these people have come to Sedona in the last couple of years too. And I've been trying to tell them like, hey, I think an aspect of you is on this ship that's here. And I've been talking to them and I like get information about you. And I get half glances sometimes because I think some people are also in denial that they are a fractaled person and that they have jobs in other places. But a lot of people in my community are awakening to that. They're trying to remember their roles in whatever it is, whatever space race thing that's going on. Because I do believe that's a big part of the
like we're an
rollout.
avatar, and then we have aspects to do other work.
Though.
Sure. And
I've the avatar that's going to school, and then there's the avatar that's work.
Yeah, true. Exactly. And like avatars right here is more like the resting, recovering, healing avatar. And up there is our more masculine, getting stuff done for the planetary, like politics or what's going on. And I feel close to that. I feel like I'm getting information about that on a regular basis, and that I'm now meeting people online and so on who have that same feeling, who are like, they sense it. But I've just been sensing this one ship. I feel like it's Pleiadian related. Potentially it's a Pleiadian run ship, but there's more than Pleiadian agendas going on. It's an international or a galactic ship. Like there's more,
right?
Yeah, like there's more than one group. They're all working together. They're all wearing the same, maybe all wearing the same outfit, but they're all coming from different places. And it feels like, they're hanging out over this city. And what they're doing, I think, is just keeping things going steadily, in keeping things steady. So my particular alien life and so on in Sedona has ironically calmed down and relaxed and felt more secure and more, I would say, elemental. I more so hang out with the fairies and the Sasquatch here more. And I feel more connected to them.
Second glances from us here.
Yeah. And the interacting with them and so on. And people will ask me like, oh, what about the ETs? And I'm like, the ETs are very much here, but they're busy and there's a lot going on. And I know personally not to interrupt them in a way, because I don't want to stop their momentum, because I'm a part of that momentum too. And I don't want to, it's not the time. Like, it's not the time. The momentum is very strong, I'm feeling, and there is very much action taking place right now. And so maybe sightings are going to go up again. I think they are, but I don't think that's the point. I really think that it's more spiritual. It's more in the heart. It's more nurturing what is going on. And that's what I feel. It's not so much like waking us up to aliens. Like that's already happened. It's more like nurturing us.
No, it's an individual kind of thing.
That's what it feels like.
Like a more, yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I know sometimes they hang out here and sometimes they don't, but
there's some areas where they don't, there's less rules. And I feel like where I'm at is like rule central. Like there is rules here. Like,
well, that's because there's so many woke or semi-woke people in Sedona, and there's all those portals that they have to really, it's like being in a busy airport. So
it is
more rules than when you're out here, and it's like security is less.
And I miss that. I miss being out in the woods and the sticks more, where they could just follow me around and tease me a bit and check on me. And I kind of miss that, that life, but I get it. It also makes me think, why did I ever chase a UFO by myself in a car?
I know.
As a young woman, like, yeah, it's going to be fine.
In Alberta, like, I'm chasing that. It's showing me for a reason. So, like, I'm going.
But I never thought about it being dangerous until just recently.
Yeah, it depends on who's in the car. Like you don't
It
want to have
does.
road rage with. It's okay road rage with grandma, but it's not great doing it with somebody who's got more
And I was
nefarious.
suspicious of a few of them too. Like, I'm coming for you was like the energy too. Like, I'm following you home, basically. And they didn't like that, obviously. But why I had that confidence, I'm now understanding, like, probably because I did have a team and it was okay. And I felt that then. But looking back, I'm like, why? Like, that was so stupid. Like,
Don't flash 3 flashes like so. Don't flash your flashlight at them.
yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time, but
It was frustrating though too, because it was so obvious I was being followed and watched for a while there before I moved out of Alberta. It was obscene. So I think I was starting to lose it, and I was like, I don't even care anymore. So I just followed them.
you want a piece of this?
Yeah, I was like, clearly, clearly. And I'm trying to point them out because they'll follow me everywhere. Like, hey, look, friends, they're right here. And you'd watch their head like turn, and like their eyes just squint a little, like up to the sky. And I can't even look at it. So I would just be like sitting here amongst friends, just like, all right, well,
Yeah,
I guess you guys aren't my friends anymore because I'm living a whole different reality than you right now.
I think it's so true that some people are like they're under that, they get that phase lock, like they can't see them.
Yeah.
They can't see them. They just can't see them, and there's almost like there's this field that dampens them down that they can't see them, and they won't. But and I guess that's just where they're at. Other people will see them, and you'll be trying to teach them. And I've noticed even in my own life, I've never journaled when I saw them.
Yeah,
Why?
you need to
I
journal.
journal birds every day. Why wouldn't I say, oh, guess what I saw? But I have not dates or times, and I have tons. And why was I so resistant to doing that? And
Right.
so I have to go back into my memory banks and pull
What
it
I
up.
do see is I think it is a heart related thing, and like obviously the races and the beings that we do want to invite to live with us shouldn't be more shitty people. They should be nice. So like we should have a heart connection. So I think it was really like I could feel them before I could see them, and so I knew where they were. But if people aren't in their heart, then I assume like the rest of the experience just is not happening. So
Okay, so quickly before we leave, can you tell us um, where people can find you once again, and if you've got anything new coming up this week?
sure. I'm in the process of wanting to release a calendar and start a new calendar basically, and base it off of the what's the word? Financial calendar, basically, the financial new year, which is January 1st. I just learned is the fiscal new year. That's what they call it. So we've been running off of the fiscal year in North America. I had no idea. I'm doing a ton of research on calendars because the looping time of our calendars and of our year is showing me that it was like this old like clockwork spin up toy, and it's like this old calendar is just playing over and over and over. And last year it was super disillusioned. All of those holidays feels like nobody celebrated them, and so it's cool. It's like it's our opportunity, like, and here's a new calendar with new
Yeah,
fun
should be
things
new
to do.
calendar. Thank you. Glad you're
Yeah,
doing
and
that.
so I'm excited to release that, and I'm going to be doing it as like a printed, you can print it at home. I'm going to do low impact. And so if you want to get that calendar and my other projects, I'm also hoping to start a school soon, a school where we meet once a month and we discuss particular skills and pursuits that you want to do, or as a class we want to do. I want to begin that soon. I'm also working on making a book and oracle cards. Like, a lot of creations coming out of me right now, new stuff. Instead of my channel and all of the video work I do, it's more physical objects and kind of building new stuff. So that's cool. I'm grateful for that. So just sign up to my website, ascensiondiaries.com, if that any at all sounds good to you, any of those products, because you will know when they're ready. And I don't even plan on, overcharging you for any of it either. That's not the goal. I really want to have fun. I've always tried to figure out how to use these platforms and do all of my work with as much fun and less. I'm not a business-minded person, but I get it. But so ascensiondiaries.com, get on my mailing list for all of the Capricorn people. That is my most organized offer to you. And then please follow me on whatever social media or video platform you like, because I will be there. My suggestion is Instagram, and then my second is Telegram. Go to my Telegram chat room, because we have a space weather bot and about 800 other people in there that want to talk about their dreams and space weather any time of the night, anytime you're having a symptom. That's your safe place, community place. And yeah, YouTube, I'm still kicking it on. Facebook, I'm still kicking it on. I'm getting censored. I've been controlled for quite some time, but pursuing. So everything's cool. I'm meeting new people all the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments. People know me as extremely friendly, and message me and talk to me whenever you want, because that's what I'm here to be.
Well, thanks, Alexis. This
Yeah.
has been very, very fascinating, and we'll keep following you.
Thank you.
So great. And so I guess I have to announce the winner from last week, which was Lee Cara, and she wins a healing session with myself, Rhonda Elliott, and I'll get in touch with you, Lee. Also, I'd like to, next week, please, if you share this out, let us know. Share it out from our Facebook page and share it out for YouTube. And we also have the podcast. Let us know how things are going, if you like the podcast and whatever, because some people it's an easier format for them just to listen to when they're in the car. Just let us know, and whoever wins next week wins with Bex. So share this out a lot. Get Alexis's name and her space weather and her Ascension Diaries out and about, and sign up to your webpage, because it's always fascinating. I love those little bursts of the sun. So thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks everyone. And next week is the end of this month. I guess yesterday was the beginning of the solar year, wasn't it? January 22nd was the beginning of the solar year. Somebody
Is that the Mayan calendar?
Yeah. Well, it's the body design. Anyways, I think so.
I know there's a 10-day like galactic portal happening either starting today or tomorrow with the Mayan calendar. So like 10 days of extra juicy energy, which we are expecting. Like globally, a lot of drama was supposed to happen in January and in February. So,
and a lot of people have been transitioning, and a lot of people globally are going on and graduating, and a lot of people are, that's what I call it, graduating, and a lot of people are just, stuff's happening. I think
and babies are being born. I've seen a few in my community the last couple days too. So it's like people left and people came in on this last full moon, the Cancer one. I watched multiple people die on that full moon. It was interesting. And so graduating, of course, but I am fascinated by the topic of coming and going from this place too. So I take in account for the space weather as well. Solar flares, people tend to leave.
Let's get out of here before that crap hits fan.
Okay, sure.
Thanks very much. And we'll see you next time, because I'm sure we'll have you back again. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.